If you are a regular listener of this show, then you know that we started accepting sponsors about a year ago. And I have to say that while I would continue to do this, whether we had sponsors or not, having that support has definitely allowed me to make the show better on many levels. And now that the show has grown some, a lot of corporations have reached out. But frankly, a lot of times they haven't measured up to the kind of integrity that we want to have. Fortunately, we've found that working with quality businesses and projects from among our own community, colleagues, listeners of the podcast, friends, has worked out wonderfully. They're seeing positive impact from being associated with the podcast, and we feel good about promoting them. So we have a few spots left, and we'd like to fill those last few spots with you and your thing. We're looking for independent, like-minded people who are creating small yoga businesses and projects that prioritize integrity and quality. If this sounds like you, go to jbrownyoga.com/sponsor. Okay, here we are. This is Jay Brown Yoga Talks podcast. My name is Jay Brown. How is everyone? This is being posted on the day of New Year's Eve. What do you call that? The New Year's Eve day. So tonight is the night we move into the new year. I hope everybody's holiday was relatively painless and maybe even better than that. And I hope that you are doing okay inside yourself at this sometimes trying moment. It seems like New Year's Eve can be either way. I have years of remembering New Year's Eve on a rooftop in Manhattan or Brooklyn, and it just being loud and kind of uncomfortable and drunk and kind of fun, but kind of not. And ultimately I shifted, and then I remember I spent my New Year's alone. I had a lot of years as a bachelor alone where I brought in the new year in silent meditation and reflection, which always felt like a better way to start the new year, but didn't make for much of a personal life. Now, I think this year I'm just going to be quiet with my dear wife at home, put my kids to bed, and I try not to treat it too differently than any other night. It's totally arbitrary that we organize our lives according to this time and calendar. But I do use it as time for reflection, and it does always feel good to feel that we will start anew on some level. We could feel like that every day, but for some reason it feels easier in cycles of 12 months. In any case, I hope that you have a good night. And if you're listening to this after the fact, you're not too hungover or that you're doing well. I do wish everyone a happy new year. And I have a special talk to share with you today with Tao Porchon-Lynch. And if you don't know who Tao is, you should Google or you should go check her out. She has a brand new biography that she just put out that you should go read. I'll link to it in the description. And honestly, this conversation it's a little bit unusual. It's a little bit different than my usual thing. It wasn't a phone call. It didn't make much sense to try to do a phone call with Tao. Her dear friend, Renee Diamond, let me give her a little shout out. She's the one who made this happen. She reached out to me, and we tried like a couple of times, and it didn't work. And then finally, there was just this one small window of opportunity for me to go record with her in person. And it meant having to get up early on a Sunday morning and drive for 2 hours. Not that big of a deal, but like, if you remember, those of you who've been around, it was like right before I was leaving to this big trip to New Zealand and Australia, and I actually wasn't doing very well, honestly. I had run myself down, and I was in some pain, and I was feeling really tired, and honestly, some part of me didn't really want to have to get up early on a Sunday morning and drive 2 hours. But ultimately, I felt like this is going to be my only opportunity to meet this woman. And I just knew that it would be worth it. And it most certainly was. First, I took a yoga class with her, and we talk about it some, and it was amazing. She taught a fantastic yoga class. She did some demonstrations that completely blew my mind. But the big thing that I didn't expect was that I would become so emotionally overwhelmed. I was really blown away by just me being 46 and kind of doing this yoga teaching as my focus for the last 20 plus years. And then to see this incredible woman at age 100 show up and essentially be doing that same work with the same heart and the same soul. I don't know, I just lost it. I lost it completely. And when we start this talk, I'm kind of barely getting it together. And I kind of get it together. And then I lose it again. But in the talk you'll hear, I was in a very raw emotional state. And also, honestly, I kind of had a plan, because if you read Tao's book, she's had this incredible storied life. I mean, she frequented Sri Aurobindo's ashram. Her uncle was like close to Gandhi, so she would like come home and he would be like hanging out in her living room. She was like this successful actress in Los Angeles in the early times of Hollywood, and ultimately kind of became disenchanted by that and went to study at the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Vedanta Society. She ultimately met Indra Devi, who's the one who insisted that she should teach yoga. And she never has really sought after any kind of wealth or anything. And she didn't become famous until she was 93, when the Guinness Book of World Records gave her the distinction of being the world's oldest yoga teacher. Not so long ago, there's this picture of her in a red dress that this like famous photographer, Robert Sturman, took of her, and it kind of went a little bit viral. And so now people know who she was, but she's been holding it down for a long time. So I was really looking forward to talking to her about all this stuff. But I think maybe she had tired herself out a little bit from teaching the class, and the stories were not totally at the recall, as you'll hear. But what did happen was this incredible transference of warmth and of inspiration. I just felt profoundly inspired by her, to be in her presence. I don't know. I hope that even an iota of the kind of feeling I was having comes through in this recording. And I'm very grateful to Renee for making this happen. And I'm so profoundly grateful for Tao just being who she is and sharing with us in the way that she does. Everybody go check out her book. Again, there'll be a link in the description. All right, before we listen to this, let me say something to any of you who are managing a studio, or maybe you need to do the work of scheduling and class payments and accounting, and you're probably using MindBody Online, and I'm betting there's one time or another where you've been unhappy about that and wish there was an alternative. Well, there is. Today's sponsor, KarmaSoft, is that alternative. And I've talked about KarmaSoft many times. They're our longest standing sponsor. The owner, Rudy Senecal, has been on the podcast in the past. You should go back and listen to that episode. We talk all about the company and my experience of using it when I had my center in Brooklyn. In my opinion, it is by far superior to MindBody Online. So if you are looking for a better way to manage your studio, I highly recommend checking out KarmaSoft. Go to karmasoftonline.com. Also, I've got some gigs coming up. Let me mention them. I am going to be in London, England, January 11th through 13th, and I'm going to be in Tel Aviv, Israel, January 18th through 20th. You can find out about those gigs and more. You can listen to the archives of the podcast and read my blog. Oh, I have a whole new blog that I put out this week, and I'm going to talk about it more on the other side in the outro. You can find that along with all of my other video stuff at jbrownyoga.com. All right then, my friends, I think we're going to just get to this. I'm going to touch base with you on the other side and, I don't know, just kind of finish off the year with some thoughts. But for now, let's go ahead and listen to this opportunity I had to be in the same room with Tao Porchon-Lynch. Okay, talk into the mic and we'll make sure it's recording properly.
Well, bless you. I'm the one that enjoyed it. I just can't believe that you've come so far. And that means such a great deal. Shows that we're on the same length. We're looking for the same thing. Beautiful.
Oh, well, Tao, I have to tell you, I feel very blessed this morning. I mean, for one, I don't think that I've ever met anyone who's had as many years as you.
Oh.
And it's almost like when you go travel to a place in the world that has deep history and you can feel it just being in that place.
Yes.
I feel that being with you.
Well, I'm very honored, honestly, that you would come. And I just, if ever you need anything that I can give you, I have a lot of junk in my place. You're very welcome to whatever you're looking for. Please contact me and I'll help you.
Oh gosh, that spirit, it just was so in the room this morning, that spirit of being of help and for the good of everyone. Well, let me say something else to you, Tao, because I think I may have mentioned this morning that I've had many people on this podcast, and I'm always trying to talk to teachers who have come before me and to hear about their bit of their stories and about what yoga was like at other times. And I've mentioned that I've had people on who've taken me as far back as like the early 60s and maybe late 50s, but never anyone who goes far back as 1918. Only scholars studying can take us that far back, but you have been alive that long. I read in your bio that you were first exposed to yoga as a very young girl. Is that right? At like age 8?
Well, actually, when I was born, my mother died at my birth, so I was brought up. My father went to Canada, but he couldn't take a newborn baby with him, so my uncle took me up, and I'm glad she did, because he was loved by everyone. He worked on the railways across Siberia. He was everywhere, and he taught me, never look down on anyone. Know that you can always learn from everybody. Mm-hmm. So that has been the way I was brought up. Mm-hmm. You know.
I guess to me it seems so incredible because we think about India often.
Yes.
And at least in the yoga world we do, because that's where the origins of what we're doing come from. And yet I'm trying to imagine like yoga in 1918. Such a different time in the world, yeah?
Well, I saw some boys, actually, and I went home, and I was so thrilled, and I was talking about that I was learning a new thing on the sands, and my aunt said, "What were they doing?" I said, "I don't know. They were wonderful, and they taught me also." They said, That's not a game. That was not a game. Mm-hmm. That's yoga." I said, "Well, if boys can do it, I can do it.
The early seed got planted on the beach.
So she sort of made a little bit fun of me, but it was my first introduction to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And I know you went on to have many different kind of careers in your life. I know you were a dancer. I know you're an authority on wine. Is that right?
Yes. When you believe in something, go and do it. Don't say I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. 1 minute after midnight, it's already today. So whatever I want to do, I don't procrastinate. I try to say, this is going to be... I've placed my thing in my chair so I can look out the window and see the sun come up. And I say, this is going to be the best of my life. And it always is.
Wow. I know that you've met some pretty incredible people in your life, too. Do you remember anything about Indra Devi?
Indra Devi, yes, I knew Indra Devi and Mahatma Gandhi with me. And that's how I knew Indra Devi. I didn't know her very well. I knew she was with us and with my uncle. And I think she went off to South America and spent some time out there. And then when she ever came, she called me up at MGM and said, I'm back, can I come and talk with you?
So were you working at MGM or teaching? Were you teaching yoga?
I was under contract to MGM, yes. The only problem was I had a thick accent, so they didn't quite know what to do with me because I spoke with a really definite, it wasn't even just French, it was a bit Indian as well. So it talked a little bit like this, you know.
But that's interesting because that was a really different time in the movie industry, too, where you were like on contract at the studio, right?
Yes.
Different time. Wow. And then you met, I look at this list of people I read, like, oh my gosh, it's like...
I remember Clark Gable.
Yes. Gandhi, Ernest Hemingway, Marlene Dietrich, Elizabeth Taylor, Marilyn Monroe, Bob Hope. It's like the list goes on and on. I don't even know. So I brought up Indra Devi because I knew she was somebody who brought yoga to like that kind of world at that early time in America. Were you teaching yoga at that time too, or were you doing you were working in the movies?
I think it's possible. I've been very lucky because I've lived all over, particularly the Orient and all over India. So I'm pretty well known in India. In fact, they're going to honor me when I go back there. The head of India now. He does yoga as well. I know. He said it because of me.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
He said he sits outside and he said, your face lights up. So he said, I know that when I sit there, my face has to light up too, not be like that.
And I'm wondering, like, at another time, in this earlier time, I'm always talking about how there wasn't yoga classes like there is now.
No.
Right? It was a different thing, right?
No, it was mostly done by young men. And until recently, in fact, the last one that I was at was in Mysore, and there were 400 people turned up for it. And 90% were men. And they were wonderful there. We worked on what we believed in. When you want to know something and you don't just sit there like that, no. Go and try and feel it happening within you. I haven't grown up yet. I've still got a long way to go.
I know, it's like you have this yoga celebrity now in this, like, I wanted to say latter stage of your life, but I don't know. I don't know how long your life's going to be. You're outliving us all. But I guess what I'm so interested in is I have a lot of people who listen to this, and it's like 85% yoga teachers.
Yes.
Some of them are young people just coming into yoga and they want to learn more. A lot of people, though, are coming into yoga much later in life.
They are.
40s, 50s, 60s, they're doing their yoga teacher trainings. And I came here this morning and took a class with you at 100 years old, and you're doing the same thing that all these other yoga teachers are doing. You're showing up here. People came. We all had a yoga class, and it's so inspirational to me that someone like you is still doing it, is still doing what you said, what I believe in. I believe in this,
yes,
this yoga, and I'm going to do it. As crazy as that may be.
It's very important, and what is important is to tell to people, let people know that we can all do it, but none of us are made exactly the same. So when I look at my class beforehand, I pick out certain things that are different. That maybe that's holding you up, or that's holding them up, and then I know what to give them to try and open up their story of life. And it works. I've done it now for many years, all over, whether it was in the Mediterranean, across nearly every country in the Mediterranean, Greece, and also up in Poland. So I have been learning from other people to accept them and to know that everyone has something to offer. And this is what is important. So when I go into a class, I don't expect everyone to be able to do it exactly the same. Mm-hmm. But if I see that they have something that I can maybe help them a little bit more with, I watch them before I start.
Mm-hmm. I know. One of the wonderful things is that you were in this room greeting people when they came in. You had everybody say their name. You
Yes.
did a number of things that I'm always talking about, like how we make things safer. And sometimes people want to talk about technical things. And sometimes you can talk about alignment.
Yes.
But that kind of creating of some community feeling,
yes,
so everybody feels like they could talk to you, that seems to me to be something to help really make practice safer for everyone.
It works. It's worked around the world, and it really has. I've never met these people, but they met me, and they said they liked the way I thought, and that I opened the door to what they were looking for, but didn't really realize. And I didn't even know them. I learned a lot that day. To know that everybody has something to offer you. Mm-hmm. And there's beauty in all of us. There really
sure is. I have to say, I teach a very gentle kind of practice.
Yes.
And I mentioned to you that I came here today a little bit injured. So I had to not do things, but I was amazed that you teach a very challenging class. And you did demonstrations. You did a one-handed down dog position where you asymmetrically reach around and grab the opposite leg. You demonstrated it 3 times. I thought, I have to ask, and you have to promise me you're going to be honest.
Yeah.
Did that hurt? Were you in pain while you were doing that?
No, because I let the breath take me there. Mm. Don't try and do something. First of all, by registering it within you. I don't do things from down below there. Notice, actually I do it. This is where the breath starts. Here.
And you kept doing it. You kept pointing your hand to the space in our torso that it was coming from.
You open up your heart. You open up your life. There's nothing you can't do, for you're not the door. That which is within you is the door, and you're the instrument. And I believe this. And when I can see anybody and I can tune in to what they're doing, I can be of help to them. But if I just see you all do the same thing, they can't all do the same thing. Just not built the same.
Yeah, I understand that. And the other thing that I really was struck by is that sometimes, like I said, I was a little bit injured. So sometimes I I have technical thoughts about how to take care, but you said the word energy a lot.
Yes.
And you were much more focused on the energy and how things were feeling and less about something technical in our bodies. And that felt supportive to me. That felt freeing to me.
But you know, the American Indians had something that they did. They used to come and put their arms around the trunk of a tree and feel the energy in the tree, bringing it up from its roots upwards. And so I started to do that myself. And one day I was with Robert, and he said, you know, your feet are off the ground. I said, not really. I'm holding out the tree. He said, well, I was that much off the ground. Just by the energy lifting me up, suddenly I was there. It's in the trees. It's in everything. In whole of nature.
I can't believe you just said that, because I was talking about that the other day, because this amazing book came out that talked about trees. And it talked about how all the trees are connected to each other underneath the soil by these like threads of mold and all of these things. And how when one tree is not doing well, all the other trees send nutrients under the soil to that other tree to help them.
Absolutely. There's an enormous amount of life and knowledge in them. And this person was actually taking a photograph, and I was off the ground and didn't know it. I was just like this, tuning into it's in, how to say, it's power. And I could feel it going through me. And right away, I didn't have to worry.
And I guess at some point, though, this became more like a job for you? Or no? Do you not think of it as a job? Or
not even, and not really a job. It's something that stirs inside of you, and you want to do something. Also, when you watch somebody, and I find that they have a little bit of a problem, if I can feel their problem, I can show them what to do to get out of it. And so I can offer it to them. And there's not just one set of what you must do. There are so many ways of getting you to face life.
I love what you were just saying, because you're talking about looking out at a class and seeing if you can help someone in class, but you're also talking about helping them moving through life.
Yes. There's nothing we can't do. Within us is the power to do everything. I learned that when I was 8 years old, and it stuck with me.
You're still proving it true till today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I'm with people like wonderful Renee.
I know. I had to laugh. Your dutiful students here looking after you, like worrying that you're overdoing it. The 100-year-old in the room, everybody's worrying she's overdoing it.
I walked in on her first time I met her, and right away I knew I liked her. Right away I could feel her energy. And I've known her ever since. And we've been in France together. We've been everywhere together, and doing things. So she is extraordinary, and she's helping.
It's amazing, those connections that happen, right? You meet certain people, you feel that something there, like you've known them for a long time or something, and I think. Sometimes when yoga teachers will talk to me, they will sometimes talk about feeling a little bit down when maybe not a lot of students are coming, or maybe they're having tough times in their lives. And they'll say, how do you stay inspired? And I say, the connections. You see, even if two people come, but we really connect.
Yes.
This does something so important. It's what inspires me. More than sequencing or more than anything else, it's the human connection.
Yes, you can feel that energy. And that energy is pure, and it's in all of us. But some people let it lie and get it lazy, and that they don't do anything with it. Whenever I see anybody that I know has a problem, I try to walk over and show them the way out of it. And I'm not telling them to do exactly what I do. I show them the way to go for their type of body, their type of how they hold themselves. This is very, it's why you learn so much from a class. There's so many different ways of doing it, isn't there? All of them. And they come into it with gusto.
If you are hearing this message, then you're listening to the free version of J. Brown Yoga Talks. To hear the rest of our conversation, please subscribe to Podcast Premium at jbrownyoga.com/premium.